state is and how they operate. So with that said, if you like, I'd like to bolster what it is that I said when I say that the January 6 events was a deep state setup and a deep state psyop by describing what the deep state is in about 2 minutes, if that's okay.
Well, I hope you will.
Okay. So the founding fathers described or characterized tyranny as the consolidation of all three branches of government into a centralized power: executive, legislative, and judicial. Now, when we talk about the deep state, what we're talking about is a tyrannical government. But the deep state is comprised of three aspects. Number one, the first aspect is the circumventing of the checks and balances portions of our three-branch government system. If you corrupt the checks and balances portions, you don't need to corrupt the whole system, just the checks and balances that keep the centralization of power from happening. Right. So this is done through blackmail, bribery, lobbying, etc. Now, the other aspect to the deep state, the second aspect, is the bureaucracy. Now, the bureaucracy is comprised of over 500 federal regulatory agencies that are charged with regulating commerce. Now, these bureaucratic agencies are, in effect, writing law by writing the regulations that tell us what we can buy, what we can sell, what is legal and what is illegal. So that's legislative. They also have their own regulation enforcement agents that enforce their regulations on the American people. So that's executive. And they have their own administrative courts that are outside of the federal court system. So that's judicial. So that's tyranny. And now the third aspect of the deep state is the international corporations and the international banking cartels that have either blackmailed our congressmen or bureaucrats into submission, or they, through bribery and lobbying, they have written the regulations for the bureaucracy to then enforce. So then in this sense, the international corporations and banking cartels are using the government's monopoly on the initiation of force to reinforce their monopolies over our resources, our labor, and our currency. And they are using the government's monopoly on the initiation of force to take our tax dollars, public money, and put it into the private hands of less than 1% of the population. Now, that being said, they use psyops to ensure that we're fighting amongst each other and we don't understand or agree upon how it is that this tyrannical government has taken over the country and is forcing our compliance.
Now, I'm sorry. I have to say, I was told you were crazy. And because you wore Viking horns, I thought maybe you were crazy. But I spent my life in Washington, and I don't know what you're going to say next, but what you just said is true. That is absolutely true. That's not crazy. By the way, you described it really well. I've seen it firsthand, and I'm just kind of amazed. I'm not being patronizing. I'm just being sincere. That's not crazy at all, what you just said.
Well, thank you. And no, what's crazy is trusting these bureaucrats and these congressmen, what I call the dinosaurs and the dinosaur circus of DC, trusting them to fix all the problems that they've created over the last several decades. That's crazy.